Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Tom King. I write Batman Bitch, and this is Bat Force Radio.
Greeted with my handsome face for the
that's fine.
remainder of the. I know it's gonna be tough, but let me see.
It probably actually helps to actually see something.
Oh, you know what? We're going that route, Mitch. All right, I'm glad you haven't shaved the beard. I'll say that much right now. I was thinking about that though. I think you'd be all right if maybe you just kept the mustache if you really want to get curious.
I don't know. I think that was all just a pipe dream.
I'm half naked.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to Bat Force Radio, the Batman and DC podcast with no limits. Tonight we have the perfect follow-up to last week's landmark episode, which featured Tom King being trolled super hard by Crosby Montana, a.k.a. Clayman. So let's hit tonight's roundtable. We've got the Bat Force Times in New York, Bat Force Tom in California.
It's raining today, dude.
Grandpa Batman in Texas.
Fuck Robert Pattinson.
God.
Give the guy a chance. And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. So tonight's guest is a multiple-time Eisner Award winner and nominee, currently nominated for 82% of all categories in this year's voting. You've seen his work in the pages of Punisher, Mr. Miracle, Sheriff of Babylon, Heroes in Crisis, and Batman, among many others. The first man to depict Darkseid eating from a store-bought veggie tray, the best beard in comics since Alan Moore, Mr. Mitch Gerads.
Howdy.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So how's life been lately?
Life's been good. It's been weird. Like, I haven't drawn a page in like a month and a half, which is very weird for me. I'm usually constantly working.
I thought that was illegal for comic artists.
I just kind of fell through. Tom and I have our upcoming thing, and he's been so busy on Batman, they didn't want to like get him started on it, so I kind of just sat and I did a couple covers here and there, but now we've got the green light, so I've been working on it, and it's been good. It's been good to return.
So would this have anything to do with that ominous tweet that you said? I know something about a something that I can't say about that something, but it's something.
Our thing is a different something.
Okay.
I
knew it.
That's a lot of somethings.
I was gonna say congrats, by the way, Mitch, on the hardcover release for Mr. Miracle.
Thank you. It looks gorgeous, doesn't it?
It's been selling out across the board, by the way.
Oh yeah. I couldn't get it last week because my shop was out of it, so I had to wait till this week.
Tom had to hit the corner, man.
Yep.
See, I still haven't heard if it's actually sold out or if stores just didn't order or not.
I know that online on a couple online retailers it's on back order, and then at my shop they sold out of every issue that they ordered.
Yeah,
gotcha.
In stock trades too. They get they're a big distributor, and they sold out quite quickly as well, which was almost unheard of. So yeah, man, like hotcakes. So
yeah,
no, I'm so happy with it. It's so cool that they did it so quick.
Yeah.
I remember we just got a phone call one day from Dan DiDio, and he was just like, "Man, the internet really wants a hardcover. We should probably do that."
I wonder what he sounded like.
He was "Hey, Mitch, we got a lot of interest in the hardcover. I think we could do it."
That was much better than me. I don't have a Dan DiDio. I'm not going to try.
Okay, well, I've just looked up the hardcover on Diamond, and it is currently not available.
Ooh.
All right.
We are sold out.
All right. We'll get you some more quick.
There you go.
Thank you. So we've never obviously had the pleasure to have you on before. So if you don't mind, we usually like to start off with just asking people what got you into your line of work. What was that moment that made you decide this is what you want to do? The influences that brought you there.
Yeah. No. So I've kind of been around comics my whole life. I have two older brothers that are 13 and 14 years older than me. And so we kind of skipped that whole stage where they beat me up and went right to the, like, I think they're the coolest people on earth stage. And so they were big into comics. So I was around comics before I could even read. I would sneak into my brother Greg's room and read his copies of Nexus. And even though I couldn't read, he just looked awesome. But then, like, I can't, comics are what got me to read. I was ahead of the class by the time I got to first grade. So it's all comic books. And then, fast forward to high school, and, I'd been reading Wizard magazine for years, and I knew how hard it was to actually break into comics, and I knew I was not in any way ready, even though I love drawing and all this, but, like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to play with the guys I admired. And so I was like, but I know I want to do art, and I know I want to get out of the house and have a job. So I went to school. I went to college for graphic design, and I graduated there and went and did graphic design for about 5 years. And my whole division got let go. We lost an account, so everyone that did that account got let go. And I was like, all right, well, I can either apply for more graphic design, or I could give that comic book thing a shot. And long story short, it kind of worked out. I started as a colorist at Boom and just kind of got little gigs here and there. And then we did the activity at Image. And then that parlayed into the Punisher. And then Punisher parlayed into Sheriff. And that was the beginning of all my DC stuff.
Wow. Sheriff of Babylon was awesome, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so proud of that book.
Yeah. How did you get started working with Tom?
So I was 2 issues away from the end of Punisher, and I was being very picky about what I was doing next. And also at Marvel, I'd been kind of pigeonholed as the military guy. And so they were dragging their feet on giving me anything else because they didn't know what else to give me. And all of a sudden I got a call from Jamie Rich one day, and he's like, hey, I'm the new guy at Vertigo. I have some stuff I'd love to pitch you. And so he pitched me, like, I think 3 different ideas, and then he pitched me Sheriff. And I'm pretty sure his whole, like, thing was to wear me down with the other ideas and then get me to do Sheriff. But I knew of Tom a little bit already from Grayson, and when he mentioned Tom, I was pretty much in. I mean, I knew Tom's history, so to do a CIA war book with Tom King was a no-brainer.
A perfect match right there, it seems like.
Yeah, and we just started working together and, like, clicked instantly. And now he's like my brother. He's the godfather of my child.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We get along.
Clearly, it's very clear online how close the group of you are. Like the two of you, Clay as well.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where we go to conventions and I feel like I'm literally hanging out with my family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sheriff of Babylon. I work at a comic shop, and Sheriff of Babylon is one of the books that I show to people who come in kind of looking to get into a comic for the first time, and they say, I don't like superhero stuff. I don't do anything like that. I don't want anything about magic or capes or anything. So I show them something like that, and it blows them away. And then they're like, okay, what can I read next?
Yeah, that was kind of one of our bigger goals on that book, was just to make it accessible for people who maybe didn't read comic books. I mean, we have the Brad Thor quote right on the front. That was to get a different kind of reader, and yeah, we tried to make it as accessible to a different audience as we could.
There is, I believe, another volume of Sheriff is still in the works.
There is. It's actually completely written.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we just have to find a time for me to jump on and do it. I know we're kind of the reason we haven't jumped on it. I mean, there's multiple reasons. We keep coming up with crazy ideas like Mr. Miracle, but we're also kind of holding on to it until we're a little more satisfied with the media stuff. So we don't want to give them even more free ideas. So
yeah. The Mr. Miracle. Were you on? What came first, the Mr. Miracle stuff or hopping on to Batman?
Sheriff was just wrapping up, and we were going to go right into Sheriff Part 2 or Volume 2, whatever you want to call it. And I wrote Tom, and I need a break. This book has emotionally taxed me to the point where I can't do this kind of book right away. Batman for a bit. And so I did Batman 14 and 15. And I think slowly after that, I was supposed to go do another arc on Batman, but that's kind of when we started formulating Mr. Miracle. Well, actually, I forgot a big part of it. So the War of Jokes and Riddles, that arc, that was originally going to be a separate graphic novel for me and Tom, like a Long Halloween kind of thing. And it got approved, and we were all ready to go. And then all of a sudden, Tom got a phone call one day, and they were like, "This War of Jokes and Riddles thing, we love it. Let's put it in the main book." And they can't fire Mikkel and I think Finch at the time. So, like, Mitch, you're out.
Damn.
This is my like dream book, you guys. This was I was gonna make it like my year one. Like this was gonna be it. And so I was bummed out. And then all of a sudden, Tom calls me one day and he tells me the news, and I'm like, ugh. Yeah. And he's like, well, they'll let us do whatever we want, and I've got some ideas. And I was like, Tom, Batman's my be all end all. Like, I would maybe do a Mr. Miracle book. And the line kind of went silent a bit. And he's like, what? I'm like, Mr. Miracle, he's like, I know who it is. That's what I'm calling to pitch you. And so that was just a weird cosmic lineup, because I've loved Mr. Miracle since I was a kid. And so when he told me that, kind of erased all that, and I was like, oh, we can make this our thing. And
wow,
I think we did.
Yeah, man, it's kind of like a crazy turn of events where you wanted to do this thing that was kind of like, your kind of personal little project that you always wanted to do, but then the kind of death of that led to the Mr. Miracle stuff, which, like, I don't know if you can be too mad about the end result of that, because everyone's talking about this book now.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
Mr. Miracle is going to, it's hugely, I'm so proud of it, and it's a huge part of my life, and it's this awesome thing where I had my first son right in the middle of it, like right when Scott had his, so like the whole book is kind of this time capsule of that time, and yeah, it's unbeatable. I couldn't ask for a better book to be a part of.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because that obviously comes out in the book so much with the baby and the way that you're kind of drawing the interludes cut between raising a baby, bringing a baby home from the hospital, and then him going to war and then coming home.
Yeah,
and
for
kind
sure.
of like that dichotomy. It was awesome to see. And we were just talking off the air before you hopped on about, like, the first half of the book is very bright, and like, it's daylight and they're out eating lunch, and then the second half, where it kind of goes into the apocalypse stuff, it's so dark, and like there's moments that are like really almost like gothic, and it's like, man, like this is crazy how much it's just the differences in the art alone is just amazing in this book.
Yeah, and that that's all these like meta things that Tom and I would constantly discuss of, like, when you have a kid, the world changes and you view it differently, and we wanted to make sure that was a thing in the book, that all of a sudden, like, the world changes in the book, and all these little, like, Tom and I got way into it coming up, and like we would constantly end all these conversations with, like, nobody's going to pick up on this stuff. This is just us talking to a wall.
Yeah, but luckily you guys are wrong, because I think that's what people love it so much.
Yeah,
is because
I think so too.
Yeah, you made a god extremely relatable.
Yeah, and so Jacob in the book is literally just my kid, but with black hair, because I don't think people would have bought Scott and Barta having a kid with jet blonde hair.
Given that War of Jokes and Riddles had been unceremoniously yanked away from you, I have seen you say in the past that your sort of dream book was a 12-issue Riddler story where he's like the smartest Riddler iteration that there's ever been. Is that still something that you're after doing? Yeah.
No, it's absolutely still my dream book. The problem, though, is my demands are too high. Because, like, I want it to be one of those mysteries where, like, as things unfold, people just like freak out. Like I remember the first time I read the Da Vinci Code, and like they would do some sort of mystery and kind of uncover it, and that was like a real world thing that you could go look up, and like it blew my mind. And I was like telling Tom about this, and he just looked at me like, "You son of a bitch!" Like, you know how much research and writing this would take. So I think this is a thing that like, if Tom and I were to do it, he would have to like start it well in advance and just kind of come up with these things. But yeah, I would love to do that.
You're gonna make him write like George Martin.
Oh God!
Many years in between each book.
I told you this at New York Comic Con, but I just wanted to say again, Batman number 14, Rooftops, man, is my favorite issue out of this whole run. By the way.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. I told you signed. I had to open that big splash with all the stars in the sky, and you gave me a nice silver signature right next to the couple kissing him.
Do, huh?
Nice do, and man, I could just stare at this issue over and over again. You know, the use of space, the blues, the way you draw her face and everything. It's just, and I always wanted to ask you actually, what was the technique for the stars? Because there are a lot of stars in this issue. Was it like a splatter technique, or was it a dotting technique?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm actually all digital.
Okay.
I've about halfway through Punisher, I switched to all digital.
Yeah.
And I remember Tom gave me that page. I remember it in the script. And so technically, the only piece of original art from Batman is I went outside with a toothbrush and some black ink and just, sat there and bristled a bunch of, splatter onto a sheet of paper, and then scanned that in and just, reversed it. So all the
blacks and whites
bits turned to white. And so that's all like actual ink.
That's
on
awesome.
That. Make the stars, yeah.
That makes them so much more meaningful for me. Cause I always wondered that whenever I would just look through this issue, because it's freaking beautiful, man. And just
thank you.
Is Batman your favorite character to draw, or who is your favorite?
Easily.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Nice.
I remember. So when I did those two issues, when I did 14 and 15, I was originally only supposed to do 15, and it was going to be the Swamp Thing story that we later did in 23. And one of the other artists, the artist who was supposed to go before me, didn't work out, and it was kind of late in the game. And I remember Tom and the editor calling me up and be like, "Hey, would you like to do 2 issues of Batman, and we'll make it a story that connects?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." And they're like, "The only difference in deadline, though, is going to be a week." It's like, oh my God. And Tom was like, "This is me and you. We'll make it work. We can alter things, whatever." And I did both those issues, and I think I turned it in like 3 or 4 days early, just because I realized that I'd been drawing Batman my entire life. So when I actually sat down to draw actual Batman, it all just flowed out. Like I had the best time.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And that's so great too, because you're able to draw a great Batman, and it's like in your DNA at this point. But your Catwoman, I think, is tied for my favorite Catwoman of all time too. You're like,
who's it tied with?
Jim Lee. You and
all right.
Yeah, like you and Jim draw my favorite Catwoman of all time. Like I don't know, you just get it. You have to like really get her body language, her expressions, her face, her bone structure. I don't know what it is, but when you got it, you got it. You have it, and Jim Lee has it. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, my Catwoman is just my perfect Catwoman is Adam Hughes' Catwoman.
Okay, yeah. So
I just followed his blueprint.
Yeah.
Do you use models for facial expressions, poses, anything like that?
Oh yeah. I shoot myself and figures and my wife and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
So you used yourself for Catwoman?
Probably. There's probably a shot or 2 in there.
In the leather
wicked
cats.
beard.
I'd like to see those reference photos.
Can you talk a little bit about your Batman 62, the dream sequence with Professor Pig?
Yeah.
Because that was some awesome shit.
Brutal.
I love how that issue came to be, because I was always supposed to do a Batman issue, and Jamie called me up one day and he's like, name a villain, we'll do it, as long as it's not one of the important villains connected to something else.
So you got to pick out who you wanted.
Yeah, and like I have no affinity for Professor Pig. It's not someone I like think of often. And for some reason, like I think before I even finished the sentence, I was like, Professor Pig. And it was one of those things where you kind of black out and you realize, like, what did I just say? I think I so wanted to see how terrifying a Tom King Professor Pig was that I was like, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that one was perfect. I don't know, something about the process that you did with that, the colors, the splatters of the blood and everything. Like, we get digital copies before the physicals come out, and even just reading digital copies, like I felt dirty after reading that issue.
Yeah, like I was like uncomfortable. I was like, what is this, man? Wow.
These are all things I was aiming for, so you're making my day.
And then I liked the twist at the end. That was really cool too.
Yeah, it's like he pitched Nightmares to me, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I love that the issue is just kind of weird the whole way through, and then it gets super weird at the end. And then, like, there's no answer. Like, I'm obsessed with making readers feel a certain way when they read my books. And so to get to play in this, little room and just kind of, like, just make people so weirded out and creepy and all these things, it was so much fun.
It was pretty brutal and nice and gory, just the way I like it. Is there anything that you've ever like drawn or done where maybe even that where somebody like the editor, someone's like, no, dude, you can't do that. It's like way too much.
We had some things in Mr. Miracle that we had to change. In the scene where
you had to take out his penis. Is that what you had to do?
No. Well, I actually did have to at one point.
A couple times, maybe.
Issue 5 originally had a ton of nudity that we had to.
Scott hanging free.
Yeah, pretty much. Issue 5 had a ton of nudity we had to cover up or get rid of.
Yeah.
I know, like in the birth issue 7, we originally had it from the doctor's POV.
Oh God.
They said no to that.
Dude, I couldn't even watch my own kid born.
How could you draw that?
Right. Wait, did you actually draw that out and then they said no?
I drew a layout because we knew there was no way. So I drew the layout.
Yes, you knew there was no way.
And submitted it, and like it was like 20 minutes later we got a note from Dan DiDio like no.
Damn.
To this day, every time I see Dan, he always mentions that page.
I can't believe you tried to draw that and actually put it in the book.
Maybe you need to complete a page of that for Dan's birthday.
There you go.
Well, now you have your Black Label book ready.
Well, that's actually a good little unexpected segue. Good. All right, so Mitch, you're an award-winning, successful comic book artist in America.
That's what I make people say when I enter a room.
What is?
Hear ye, hear ye.
Because I ask a handful of people that come on the show, artists, about this. Like, what is your outlook or perception of the weird and uncomfortable relationship America has with nudity in certain medias as opposed to, like, say, Europe or other parts of the world? And, obviously one of many examples is the whole thing that happened with Black Label, with Damned and whatnot. Like are we 2 steps forward, 1 step back? Is it ours, or do you feel it should be more mature? Like, what's your take on this?
I mean, I think it's there's a big way to come at this and then the small way. And the big way is, we need to be a little more open to stuff, because I think the more we taboo things, the more we taboo things, the dirtier they become.
Right.
And there's things that don't need to be dirtied. A little nudity, like, we all are nude under our clothes. Like, I don't think nudity should freak people out as much as it does.
Exactly.
And then there's cases for it too. Like, just saying that doesn't mean like you can go nuts with nudity. A little nudity is fine, but maybe some sexual situations, you got to censor that a bit. But then there's the weird little things about like Batman Damned and stuff, where that was more just a matter of really bad timing.
Yeah.
DC had just gotten a brand new boss literally the day that came out. So now there's all these things on, Colbert and all this, and that's a tough position for someone new to come in and see that. So they cracked down on it a bit. It's all relative.
Yeah, it was the worst timing because I felt the vision for Black Label was the step in the direction that I feel one of the big two should have been taking for quite some time now, and I feel like it was going there. It was just ridiculously bad timing, but it always seemed really strange to me how like something so subtle and natural, like a little bit of nudity in this medium, where we could draw, we could talk about people with makeup, blowing up, I don't know, orphanages or laughing gas or scary, all this other stuff, but subtle nudity, which happens in everyone's lives, is something that people freak out about. So it's always interesting to hear what you professionals say, or your take.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think if more people were artists and were exposed to, because as most artists are, part of them learning their craft is a lot of anatomy drawing. I think if more people were artists, it would kind of take away some of that stigma of nudity being an uncomfortable situation.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a bias that just happens because I'm an artist or because anyone is related to a creative field. We have a different way of approaching things.
Which kind of leads me back real quick to Batman 14, where that intimate situation that you had Batman and Catwoman in, the way you depicted it was like perfect, though. Now that I think about it, it was just right. So
yeah, I mean those two issues were all about actual like romance and the beginning of love and all these things, and we wanted to make it as we wanted romance and love to be the thing that comes off the pages, not sex.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of one of the things we aimed for. I always say that one day I need to write, or one day me and Tom need to do just a one-page thing where it just shows Alfred returning to that rooftop, like picking up diamonds, just grossed out
with like a dustpan and whatnot, like a really posh dustpan.
Little tweezers, just constantly cringing.
Are there any other DC characters that you would like to tackle in the future? Tom King said there are things in the works that he can't mention, but my brain, I always just threw some names out. I'm like, oh, how cool would it be to see you guys do like a Dr. Fate or an Etrigan or some of these badasses throughout DC mythology that need like a little bit of modern do. Like, are there any like characters that stick out to you that you might want to work on in the future?
This question's always funny because it always, like, I love the question, but I also hate it because it sounds like I'm marketing. But when I started at DC, so here's my list, and
nice.
This is not marketing. This was my list. So It was Batman, Mr. Miracle, Wally West, and then the new thing we're about to be doing would be like my fourth. Like, that would be awesome. So I'm crossing people off the list like right off the bat.
Nice.
3 out of 4 is pretty good.
Yeah, that's good batting average right there.
When you were getting into this whole art thing, like, okay, I'm going to try to be a comic artist, I'm sure no part of you ever imagined that it's going to lead to your closest creative partner being on late night television, showing off your work and talking about how great it's been working with you and creating this.
Yeah, no, I did not see that coming. I didn't see it coming that night. I was like, what is happening?
I think we all had sort of the same feeling on that because we mentioned this just last week when Tom was on. So the first time we ever had Tom on the show was just after Rebirth was announced. So he wasn't known for Batman yet. So what he was known for was, for the most part, it was Vision and Grayson and We Are Rob. So he was getting a name for himself, but it was nowhere near this level. So the first time we had him, he was sort of just making his way to get to this level. So watching him and yourself and Clayman and Jen and everybody that's been a part of this just exploding as all this is taken off, and all of the media coverage that it's got has been insane.
What's funny about the Seth Meyers thing, like, I always feel bad because he wasn't there to talk about me. Like, one of the reasons he literally was put on that show is to talk about Heroes in Crisis. He never mentioned it. They wrapped up. But Tom even said, like, when they did the rehearsal, like, it all led to Heroes in Crisis. I mean, they brought Clay and his wife in. Clay and his wife were there in the green room.
Yeah.
They brought it. The Mr. Miracle thing was not planned. All of a sudden, he brought out that picture, and they talked about Mr. Miracle. And I think that ate up the time. So I always feel bad.
Well, at least you got in there. Hey, Heroes in Crisis got plenty of publicity anyway.
Oh, and then, like, on Seth Meyers too, they had Jason Mantzoukas, who Tom and I are obsessed with, and all of a sudden he just started going on about Mr. Miracle, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, because you put him in there.
Yeah, well,
cool, yeah.
Oh.
Raffi, man, he's hilarious.
Oh my God, every character he does is amazing.
Yeah, all of those cameos were really cool too, and we even had yourself and Tom in there.
That page was. I think I ticked off my editors with that page. I gave them a lot of extra work. So originally it was just, we did it in Sheriff too, where we had all the creative team show up on a page. Mm-hmm. And so that was the original plan, is in the audience, Tom wrote, in the audience, there's me and you and Jamie and all the different assistant editors we had, Dan and Jim, blah, blah. But I had more space, so I just started filling them in with podcast people that I love. And comedy podcast guys and girls, and all of a sudden, like, I turned it in, and Jamie wrote back, like, "What are you doing? Like, you can't do this without any sort of likeness rights and blah blah blah." And
well,
so
that's
he's
why
like,
I have my video on, so you can put me in one.
But he's like, "You need to redraw that page," and I was like, "Give me a day." And so I contacted all those people.
No way.
I got them all to sign a thing. Like, it was awesome. And I turned it in. You could tell Jamie was just a little like, ugh, I can't believe you actually did it. And I told him not to. Yeah.
So did you have any contact with any of those guys before?
I had, nothing besides, like a random, maybe they liked or responded to a tweet sometime, but nobody that I knew explicitly, except for the one people always don't catch, and I get why, but on a different page, when Barda and Scott are in an elevator on their way to getting their ultrasound, in that same issue, the other guy in the elevator is Brian Fallon, who's my favorite musician.
Yeah, Gaslight Anthem.
Yep. And he's a big comic guy. I've known him for a little bit now, and like, he went to the Joe Kubert school. It's funny, he has the story. So he went to the Joe Kubert school, and he was there for like a day, and he got a phone call saying, "Hey, we love your band. Would you like to go on this tour?" So he had like a day to decide if he wanted to be a musician or a comic book artist.
Holy crap.
No pressure there.
Yeah. He picked musician, which I think he picked the right one.
But I wonder, given different eras of entertainment, like today, that might be a much harder choice to make. Just how big comic culture has become.
Oh yeah, talk about two industries where it's a complete crapshoot if you make it or not.
But both of them have that the same thing where it doesn't really matter how good you are. You could be one of the best in the world and still not make it if you don't have the right stroke of luck.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What other podcasts do you currently listen to, comedy ones?
So I'm big in kind of all those ones that I put in there.
So the Mantzoukas, is that from the How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, How Did This Get Made? He obviously shows up on all these other... How Did This Get Made is my favorite. That's my, I had to pull over one time driving my kid to school because I was like laughing so hard I couldn't breathe.
Which one was it?
What one was it?
My favorite is the Face Off.
Yeah, that one was great. This was a more recent one. I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
but
it's a great podcast.
Yeah. And then I love, Comedy Bang Bang is amazing.
That one's good.
Their new one with just Scott Ackerman and Lauren Lapkus and Paul F. Tompkins, the Freedom.
Yeah.
That one's really good. Raised by TV with Lapkus, and all great.
Yeah, good stuff. Are you able to listen to like podcasts when you draw? What do you listen to when you draw that helps you focus?
I usually save podcasts for the car. I don't know why that is. I used to listen to them while I drew, but now I just throw on TV. So I have TV going off on the side. I try to make it something that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, background noise.
Yeah. Like, I think most of Mr. Miracle was drawn to a complete rewatch of Friends.
You're a big Friends guy?
I mean, I guess. It's just one of those things you have on that if you don't actually look at the TV for hours, it's okay.
Yeah, you still know what's going on.
Yeah.
You mentioned your brothers were into comics. What have they thought of your progress and success?
Oh, they hate me. No.
They ask you to draw stuff all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think my whole family, they're proud of me. Like, they also saw the lean years. I mean, there were years where I had to decide on food or whatever, and I was like, my wife is amazing because when we were just dating, we weren't even engaged, we were just dating, and she was paying my rent for my apartment that she didn't even live in. It was just my apartment. She was paying my rent just so I could continue working towards it.
That is a keep.
I know. Like,
she believed in you, man.
Hell of a girl. But
a little different than Clay Mann's girlfriend.
Yeah, when the first time Clay was on, he explained how she told him that, you can't do that. You can't make it in that.
I love Clay. He's the best.
Well, last week was so awkward, though. I know I gave you some of the bullet points on it. I felt so bad. I wasn't prepared for how mean he was going to be.
I listened to most of it today, and that's like, they're like, I'm a nice guy. Like, I tend to be pretty cordial with everyone and blah blah. But like, and I try to make people feel good all the time. It's a weird thing, but like, Clay is the exact opposite. Clay will find what's bothering you and then just beat you over the head with it. And it's in such a subtle way that it's so endearing. But like, yeah, he will find if you're down, and his way to like comfort you is to just knock you down farther.
He was so ruthless when he was pretending to be one of us, and he was just like such a dick. Like, and it's just like so hard to listen to because you perceive it as Tom thinking it's one of us, and he's like, oh, so like, and Tom said something like, I forgot what he mentioned. It's, oh yeah, the nightmare issues, and then Clay's like, yeah, I wasn't really big on those issues. Like, are those over with? They're over with, right? We don't have any more. Okay, cool.
Like, thank God.
Wasn't my favorite.
I just remember when he trashed Frank Miller for a bit.
Yeah, that's when Gramps almost had a stroke.
Yeah, he was like, and then even after he reveals himself, and then Tom's like, I said that you were one of my favorite artists, and he goes, yeah, but you went on about Frank Miller this, Frank Miller that.
Now, see, I had met Clay the week before at the Dallas Comic-Con, so he told me his plan, what he wanted to do. So I just waited all week. I waited all week for that, and I was afraid I was going to blow it because I had the video on, and I was just dying laughing.
Well, what's so funny is I was listening to it, and I thought maybe Clay would like disguise his voice or something. But it's so obviously Clay. I'm actually a little weirded out that Tom didn't figure it out.
Yeah, he was just being like, Tom was being such a sweetheart overall.
Tom's like weathered now to this kind of shit, and Clay was like asking him, why'd you throw Clay Mann under the bus? With that
I know. The whole Poison Ivy thing. Yeah.
Holy shit.
And like the day before, I told Clay, like, look, if you're going to hide on the call, you're going to have to change your screen name because if he happens to look at the list of people that are on the call, the jig is going to be up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to change it. Tell me if you see it change on your end. So he goes and changes his name, and I think he's gonna go, some kind of regular-looking name.
Yeah.
But he goes Crosby, Montana. And
That's it.
Tom's kid's first name. And then Tony Montana, I don't know.
Tom said, I thought that was a little peculiar.
Crosby, Montana is the name of a guy who's wearing a fake mustache to try to get into places he's not supposed to be
for
in.
sure. It's Clay's version of Matches Malone.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought about.
Magnum PI persona.
Oh, God.
It's amazing.
It's good stuff.
I hear they left me a question.
Well,
You
funny you
probably-
mention that.
Yeah, Gramps, you want to fire up the lightning round?
Not just comics. We also talk about, food and stuff. So what's your favorite side with fried chicken?
Say, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Easily. It's my
Easily.
favorite food to begin with.
Okay.
Exactly.
Where are you? Are you down in Florida or are you
Arizona.
You're in Arizona. Oh, the
Close
sun.
to me.
We're currently 185 degrees.
Fucking hell.
Actually, it's really cool today. It's like 70 something.
All the big shot comic artists always end up in Arizona now, don't they? With Capullo and McFarlane and everyone.
I'm just doing it early.
Yeah.
Growing up, who was you a comic artist that you looked up to?
So it's always Jim Lee for sure. But I was just talking to someone about this earlier, is that I have this weird thing where I remember being super into comics in the 90s, and all the artists that I loved then are guys I don't really care about now. And all the guys that I really did not like or actively hated when I was that age are some of my biggest idols now. So it's this weird taste thing you go through. But from when I think back, Steve Rude on Nexus, Jim Lee on X-Men and
Peanut or plain M&Ms?
Peanut.
Nice.
Peanut. Oh,
They have these new flavors out now. I think they're ones you have to judge on. And there's a Thai coconut peanut M&M. It's the greatest thing.
What?
Greatest thing on earth.
Thai coconut.
I saw a commercial for hazelnut spread M&M. So basically Nutella M&M.
Damn.
Yeah.
Those are interesting.
Okay.
I like to ask. This one's a little off from the food ones, but professionally, what's the best advice you were ever given, and if applicable, who gave you that advice?
So Adam Hughes, he gave me awesome advice that it's more applicable for when you've got a foot in already, but don't fix a mistake now, just fix it the next time. So if you don't like how you drew something, we all have deadlines. We all need to get a book out. Just make sure you don't do it the next time.
Who's your favorite TV private investigator, Magnum PI or Inspector Gadget?
Magnum PI. Inspector Gadget's an idiot.
Hear that, Clay? There you go.
There you go, Clay. That was a layup. Do you have any favorite sports teams?
Favorite? The Twins, Minnesota Twins. It's I don't follow them religiously, but it's the only sport that I still kind of grab onto a little bit.
Okay.
If you could have dinner with any human being that lived throughout history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my God. Dead or alive?
Yeah, anyone.
And don't say John Bon Jovi.
Robert Pattinson, Gramps doesn't like that.
All right, so I had a real oh yeah, that makes me sound really cool idea or pick, and then now I have my all right, so my one that I would be awesome would be Norman Rockwell. I'd love to just sit and pick his brain. And then my actual one of if a genie presented me with this question, my superficial answer. Shit, now I just blanked on his name while I'm sitting here. John Krasinski. I think he'd be awesome to hang out with.
I like that one. I'm a big fan of The Office, so I identify with that one.
Right on.
All right. Name a CBS military show that you don't like.
This one's
That
from Clay,
is
isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Well, there were two versions of the question. There was that I think that was actually Tom's version of the question.
Oh, okay.
Clay added just what television show don't you like?
Both of those guys give me shit constantly because I like too much stuff. I don't think it's a problem. And I was just talking with my wife about that today. It's not that I like everything. It's just I don't talk about the shit I don't like. No, I'm obsessed with like SEAL Team. Like my wife is literally looking at me through the window at this moment because SEAL Team finale is on tonight, and she wants to make sure I'm in.
It's like, hurry up, Mitch.
It's starting.
But no, I watch all like I love the Magnum PI reboot, and I try to get with Clay on that, and he's just like, stop it, stop it.
He pauses you.
Yeah.
Get here.
Now we have this new tradition where, you know, Clay and Tom got to ask you that question. Now you get to make up your own question for the next guest that we have, and it can be anything.
And we could say that we know our next guest, Robin. It's
Yeah, I already told him, so I don't know if you've prepared anything ahead of time, but yeah, I let him in on the fact that his question will be for Chip Zdarsky.
All right. So I wish I could have come up with something better. Favorite chip, chocolate or potato?
favorite chip.
Because once Yannick Paquette was on, and he asked, "Do you eat macaroni and cheese with a fork or a spoon?"
A fork, for sure.
You artists and your interesting questions.
You know.
I like that one. He'll like that one.
And
Chip.
and if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. Invulnerability.
Nice.
I like.
Is that like invulnerability to physical harm or to internet criticism?
I can handle the internet. I can't handle bullets.
Right.
So you'd be like Luke Cage.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Cool.
There's something so satisfying of these characters that you throw them into a situation with these like terrible people and they can't do anything to stop them. Like it's so satisfying.
But they can destroy every hoodie that guy puts on.
True. There'd be a lot of closed budget happening.
Yeah.
Mitch, we want to thank you so much for your time. Man, it's been a long time coming, and it was worth the wait, man. I mean...
Excellent.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And thanks for all the great work you do, man.
Yeah, man.
It was great. It was great being here. I literally, before we started this, I told Robin, I was like, I can probably only do a half hour. And we're at an hour now, so that says something.
Yeah, your wife is pissed because SEAL Team's on, so...
We have a DVR. Don't worry.
Okay. Congrats again on all the success, man. And, everyone grab Mr. Miracle hardcover out now. That Seafoam Under the Black. Super awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Hey, Gotham Dwellers. Make sure to stop everything right now and subscribe to Bat Force Radio. We can be found on iTunes and SoundCloud. Don't miss out. Guaranteed to satisfy all of your Batman and DC needs.